No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is a special edition of Outspoken. You probably know by now one of my favourite features on my old GB News show was The Clash. So we are bringing it back for a special week debating the biggest issues in the world. Today, is immigration destroying Britain? Joining me to clash it out is the conservative YouTube sensation Based and Bougie, the broadcaster and author James Mathewson, and the broadcaster and commentator Fahima Muhammad. So because of this special debate today, there will be no Greatest Britain or Union Jackass, but the Royal Uncancelled After Show continues as normal over on Substack at www.outspoken.live. So please join the fun on Substack after the main show. But now, let's go. So should Britain bring in ICE-style immigration enforcement? I think it's a really sensible idea. I think it's going to need to happen after the next election because otherwise nothing will change. Let's clash it out now as we bring in conservative YouTube sensation Based and Bougie, the broadcaster and author James Mathewson, and the broadcaster and commentator Fahima Muhammad. Fahima, first to you, why don't you think the UK should go down an ICE-style deportation path?
I think Britain should not import an ICE-style model because we already have immigration enforcement powers, detention and removals. The issue is effectiveness and safeguards, not theatrics. And when you look at ICE, the headline tactics come with serious costs like aggressive raids, community fear, lower cooperation with police, and repeated oversight, finding about detention standards and accountability. Even the US Government Accountability Office has criticized DHS ICE inspection systems for lacking clear goals and measures of effectiveness. In Britain, the legal culture is different. We run on proportionality, due process, and equality duties. And we've already lived through the consequences of hostile environment, overreach in Windrush. So my stance is enforce the law firmly against traffickers, exploiters, and serious offenders.
Okay, your minute's up. Based and Bougie, why is she wrong?
Well, I definitely think that we should definitely bring an ICE-style enforcement to the UK. And I think we should even take it a step further, not just removing people who are illegal, but also removing people who are hostile to the UK and people who sit on people's channels and say, what is English culture? What does England even look like? I'm so sick and tired of this. I'm so sick and tired of the UK just being this charity case for the rest of the world when these people, they actually have neighboring countries that can support them. And essentially, who gets affected by this is the British public. People like myself, people like you two, people like Dan. This impacts us financially, this impacts us economically, socially, culturally, in every way. So yes, we need to bring an ICE-style enforcement.
James Mathewson, are you pro a British-style ICE immigration force?
No, because I'm not a monster and I'm not an idiot. And that's, you'd either have to be one or the other, I'm afraid. Now, you can label yourselves accordingly. I'm not doing it for you. But listen, you're either stupid or you're inherently evil if you think one of those things works. Because we talk about British values, right? We talk about the values that we have in this country. You are trading all of them by doing something like this. Look what America has done. It has lost its soul. It has lost its way by treating people the way that they are treating them. Because the environment that's hostile, I know people in California right now, you know what that, and their parents, right? You know what their parents who've worked in America for 35 years, and you know what they're doing right now? They're going to work and they're going home. They can't even go to the shops. Their family are taking them shopping. They're doing that because they are so scared to leave the house. And by the way,
well, I've got Trump derangement syndrome.
That is the intended effect, and it is trying to do that. And listen, if we're going to deport people, if we're going to ask where do we draw the line, then, you know, we have to ask what this is about. And ultimately, I do believe that it's about skin color, it's about appearance, and it's about ethnicity.
So bored of this.
Oh, James, I have to apologize. You wound me up so much. I interrupted, but I guess seeing you called me evil and stupid and
I did listen.
Whatever
I said you could pick which one you were, stupid or evil. You could.
I won't apologize. I won't apologize too hard. Look, James, that's bullshit. The picture that you're painting from America. They're just people who have got so much TDS. They're probably still sitting in their basement in a COVID mask. Like, seriously, America has so much respect internationally and is absolutely far safer since Donald Trump was able to control the
Are you
US
joking?
borders.
Are you joking?
No, I'm
Have you
deadly
not
serious,
seen?
Fahima.
Oh my God, have you not seen how many people have just killed, because of the gun sort of, problems, and how he's, wanting to invest in wars abroad, but his own country is economically damaged. People don't have the kind of economics. They don't have anything. You guys are just fan people, but at the end of
No,
the
we're
day,
talking
you're
about
just
ICE.
ignoring
We're talking about ICE. I'm actually
statistics.
not talking
And
about his foreign
even,
policy. I don't even want to get
but
into
even
that because
still,
that is
even
irrelevant.
still,
What
that is
I'm
all
talking about is
that.
the
It's
fact
about
that he has
foreigners coming
secured his
in
borders.
from Mexico. And
Well-
plus they also, ICE is there because they can actually have an agreement with a border, which they actually can actually put people back. We don't have the same system. The UK model here, is policing by consent. Like I said,
Well, it's not
proportionality, strong
working.
emphasis on equality.
And even still,
Okay, the US model is a federal immigration
Okay, James,
agency,
come
which
in.
they have also been protesting for thousands of people on the streets
Okay, let James
across
come
the
in.
states against it.
Even still, what Fahima said's right, and even still then, right, to look at America and think that that's aspirational, right? When you see, because whatever happened to you libertarians, Dan? Whatever happened to you, don't tread on me. I don't want a
No, I believe in
government,
borders.
taking control. But you've got masked agents who do not have to reveal their identity, operating purely for the direction of the executive branch of the government, right? They are a private police force. They operate for them. They have more funding than the
Really
Danish
trained well.
military. They have more funding than the Danish military overall, right? They are a huge organization. They're recruiting thugs and people who need an upfront payment of 15 grand, people in desperate situations, right? And what they're then doing is they're deploying them to communities that voted against Donald Trump. That's the key thing here. They're not in Republican areas. They're putting them in Democrat areas, and they're using them to terrorize communities. And the result of that,
I'll tell you what is terrorizing communities, James. The rapists, the murderers, the drug dealers, the sex traffickers that were flowing in via that border every single day. Donald Trump has shut it down overnight, and he has done that with ICE, and we are too gutless and weak in this country to do it. Slippery Summer is allowing the invasion to continue every day, and people are dying, and you guys just want people to keep dying.
I just think if you don't want your community to be terrorized, follow the law and come in legally. It's as simple as ABC 1, 2, 3. Come in legally. Why skip the queue? Follow the instructions, follow the law and come in legally, and you won't have to fear anyone knocking on your door and dragging you out. I have a question for you. Would you allow a stranger to come and live in your home?
For Fahima or James?
Both of them, actually. Would you guys allow strangers to come live in your home?
That's not a that's
No,
not a,
would you allow strangers to come live in your home?
Stupid. I'm sorry, it's so
Would
stupid.
you or would you allow strangers to come live in your home?
Why are you refusing to answer the question, Fahima?
Fahima, would you allow strangers to come and live in your home? Yes or no?
Well, they did for Ukraine.
Would you allow strangers to come and live in your home? Yes or no?
It doesn't matter what I think.
Just yes
that's
or
like
no.
equating.
Yes or
That's
no.
like
This is the
equating
hypocrisy.
the
But this is the
Why
hypocrisy.
won't you
It's
answer
one
the
rule for them.
question?
It's one rule for them, and it's a different rule for everyone else.
I'll answer it.
They will not allow strangers in their home.
No, I will not have a stranger in my home. I will not put my family at risk. James, why can't you answer that question?
Because the country isn't a home. I live in a one-bedroom
this country
flat
is our home. This country is our home.
A nation state, yeah. But what you're doing is you're simplifying, and this is what you people always do. You simplify, and it's the same with the law thing. It's a really clever argument.
So this country is not your home. That makes sense to why you share those views. It makes sense to why you have these very hostile views towards the UK because you don't consider it your home.
It is my home. It's not my house. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but your house will be in the home, which is the UK. Your house is in the UK, so that makes the UK pretty much your home too.
Let's abandon your very clever metaphor for a moment, if we can, and let's just imagine, if we can, that the simplicity of your argument about the law, right? Because people listen to it and they go, "Okay, yeah, you should abide by the law. I'm a law-abiding person. I'm a law-abiding person. You should abide." That's very sensible, right? The law is not a metric for what is right and wrong. Laws change. Anybody can change a law like that if they're in power, right? That's the problem. Everything that was done to the Jews in Nazi Germany legal
Why are we talking
under their
about the
law,
Jews and Nazi
right?
Germany?
Apartheid
Just
was
don't come
legal
into
as
a
well.
country
Apartheid in
illegally.
South Africa.
Why are you guys making
Yeah,
this a
I grew up with
historical
that.
argument? Just don't come into a country illegally. My dad, for example,
You-
he followed the proper
Oh,
procedures. He
Not
even waited
everyone's
4
situation is
years.
the same.
He even
There's
waited
no
4 years.
safety.
Why skip
I mean,
the
James,
queue?
James, I think we've really
What
got
about
to deal
change
with
the
that.
law?
James,
Then
sorry,
your dad
just
couldn't.
before you move on from that, James, I think it's a pretty bad faith thing that you have just done to invoke Nazi Germany when what we are talking about is banning illegal immigration to our country, stopping rapists, terrorists, child sex
Which we do anyway,
traffickers
and we have laws
entering our
for.
country.
Yeah,
And
we
why are
already do
you
that.
comparing that to
We
Nazi
already do
Germany?
that.
What does that have to do
Because
with
you're talking about whether we should establish, because the question that you're asking is whether we should establish a secret police force
For
that works for
illegals.
politicians that then arrests anybody that they want arrested and deports them, right?
Absolutely.
But
No,
Absolutely.
people who are here
You've broken the
illegally.
law. If you've
that
come
is,
here
and the reason I
illegally,
brought,
you've
why do you
committed a
think then
crime.
that I
We have
brought
that.
up,
A crime means
why
there
do you
should be
think then that I
consequences.
brought up the example of Nazi Germany? Why then did you think I brought that
Because
up?
I think you want anyone who is making this argument to be derided as some type of neo-Nazi, because what it does is it terrifies people into expressing what they really
should.
think about this. And I think it's
It
a
should, because
really
that's what it
twisted
People are just
argument.
terrified
Fahima,
alone
sorry,
with this
come in.
ice. I said people are terrified with ICE anyway. They're walking around with
Then
their
don't
passports on
come
their
into the
forehead.
country
And at the same
illegally.
time, we've got so many Americans. You know, if you look at the
Then
latest
don't come
figures,
into the country
there are so many
illegally.
Americans that are actually now immigrating to the UK because they do not, approve. Even the so-called Trump supporters are now
Yeah.
coming into the
Well,
UK.
outside of Ellen
That's
DeGeneres and
racist
Portia de
figures.
Rossi have already gone back. I'd love to see the evidence of that.
They're detaining based on
There is,
I can't
cultural.
believe-
We'll Google it.
I can't
They're
believe we're
detaining
having.
based on cultural identity. And Dan and Based, you'd have to both ask yourselves, Dan, you're Australian, am I correct?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
New
Are
Zealand.
you,
No, no, no,
You're a
no, no, no,
British
no, no,
citizen?
no, I'm not. Let me be very clear because you've brought my ethnicity into this. So let me be very clear. I am totally English. I am as English as you, James. I was born in New Zealand. My dad
Okay,
was
here's
born
the
on a
problem.
British Army base in Malta. My mum was born in Essex. Every single piece of my blood in my body pumps white
Okay.
English. And the point being, and why this matters, James, is that it doesn't actually matter where you happen to be born when you're talking about ethnicity. Just like
No.
if I had been born in Japan, I wouldn't be Japanese. And just like if I had been born in Nigeria,
but
I
the
wouldn't
law
be
in this
Nigerian.
country-
Okay, I am
But when the
English.
law in
I
this
happen to be
country-
born in
the
New
law
Zealand,
in
but
this
I am
country
English.
says that if you are a British citizen, then you do have that right as a British citizen, regardless of background, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of being white, is what people in certain parties are trying to claim. So
Yeah,
the law
and-
right now is nothing to do with ethnicity or background. And people
And
are
that's what
saying
they want to make it.
someone like myself is not British. I would not classify myself as English. I know it's an ethnicity, but I will definitely say I'm a British because of the British citizenship. I do work, I pay taxes. I've been here for many years, and I do actually abide by the law of this country. I do respect, I do integrate. It's not just about integration as in, having the same thoughts. We all can have different thoughts. We don't have to be a clone of each other. That's the whole point, okay?
Exactly.
But the main thing is when you talk about integration, what does that even mean? I'm integrated only because I am brown and because I am visibly Muslim. Most people won't even think that I can even speak English
But that's the
properly,
point
or they
that
don't
we're
even
trying
care
to
if
make.
I
That's
do.
the point
They
that we're
got
trying
me
to
out.
make is that
And
if you
ICE
have
was
come
to
here
I'd be
legally
the first
and you
person
have
out.
integrated and you do consider yourself to be British and you allow yourself to, integrate into British culture, that's
No.
not the problem. The problem
Babe,
is
that's
people
not
who
what you
come here
said.
illegally. That's the problem. People who
No,
come here
babe,
illegally,
you
we should
said-
focus on that first.
wanted to go
And
further.
second, like I said, we can take it a step further and we should remove anyone who is hostile to British culture.
Right,
Fahima,
that-
she's not. Well,
All
sometimes you do
have it. When you say
display some
hostile, what do
hostility
you mean?
to
Can I
British
just
culture,
say, can I
but
speak
you've
for a
just said
moment?
that
I
you
am
worked
okay,
very
okay,
hard.
okay, hold
you've
up,
integrated.
hold up.
Absolutely.
Let James come in.
I just have to say at that point, I am sorry. That's fascist based.
What is fascist? What's
Dan,
fascist?
surely you can't back that up.
What part
right?
is
You want
fascist?
to? You just said you want to take it a step further
Yes.
and detain
Yeah.
people that say.
No.
Taking
No,
away
remove
freedom of
people who
speech,
are
that's what it
hostile
is.
to British culture, whether that's hostile to Christianity,
Is that me?
hostile to the flag, hostile to the
How?
culture,
How
they
hostile?
should
But
go
I'm an
live in the
atheist.
country that
I'm
they
a
love.
militant
They should go
atheist.
live in the country that they love, and they should leave the country that they hate.
Okay.
That's
I'm a
what
No,
I
we
mean.
love this country, but we also just have a different viewpoint.
And
That's
I'm not
all it
saying
is.
that you need to be deported. I never
Hey.
said that. I said it's the people who bash the flag, people who bash
Me.
Christianity.
People bashing flags
people-
only
did you
because,
say
not
me?
because they
You
don't
have to
like the
Did you
flag.
say
Let me
me?
make this clear. People are not against the British flag. It's because
Well,
people
I was
are
attacked for waving the
hijacking it
British
to
flag.
say that it
I was
belongs to
attacked
Based
for
on
only
waving
who
the
us,
she
British
was
not
flag.
you.
literally attacked.
I was attacked. I was almost
Attacked.
strangled for waving the British
Yeah.
flag for
Well,
someone.
that's wrong. No one's going to condone that.
Yes,
And
but
that's a criminal
if it
offence.
was up to me, whoever did that would be deported, because why on earth? In some countries, it's
That's
actually
mad.
no, it is not mad, because in most countries
What
there
are
are
you gonna
blasphemy
deport me
laws
to?
Nice.
that
They
you
should
should
be
be
charged with
arrested
assault if
if
that's
you
what it
disrespect
is.
the flag. So it's only mad when
listen.
it's in the
It's
UK,
not
but it's not
disrespecting the
mad
flag.
when it's
It should
other
be more about
countries.
your safety. If they
Right.
were there attacking you, it's about you. Okay, it's putting
Yeah.
yourself first.
Okay,
Well, I
James,
stand
by
James,
my
James
opinion.
wants to come in, but
Horrific.
James, just before you do, let me pose this question to you. Do you not think that Rupert Lowe has a point, James, to say that anyone who knew or concealed or covered up or had anything to do with the scourge of Pakistani Muslim rape gangs should be deported from this country, James? He's right, isn't he?
Well, yeah, they should be prosecuted. They should be criminalized. I'm
No,
also, I
deported,
don't understand where this
deported.
thing about. I don't understand what deported means. Who are you deporting?
Are you joking?
Sent
me?
back to the
No,
other
what-
country
no,
that they
hey.
identify with, sent back to the
They
country where they have
identify
a
with,
second
right, so-
passport.
No, but the crucial thing here is, and my issue with this is, right, are you deporting me based? Are you
You
going to
don't
deport
have
me?
another passport,
I
do
think
you?
you should go to a separate island in the UK. That's what I would do, because your hostility towards the UK is absolutely disgusting, is absolutely disrespectful, and I dare you to go to the UAE
You're a
and
fascist.
have that same hostility for Dubai, Middle Eastern culture. You would have
You're
the same
threatening me with-
consequences.
you're
There would be the
threatening me
same
with
consequences.
fascist state.
Okay, then
You're saying I should go to somewhere where you're saying that you like
yes,
British values.
yes. If
that
you
like
always have
freedom of
something
speech,
negative to
but you
say
wanna
about
deport-
England, if you always have
want to
something negative to say
people
about
who
Britain, you
disagree
should
You're
with
not
not
allowed
be
to
here.
have anything
In fact,
negative.
I
We
will
can't
give you the
criticize.
choice of
In a
choosing which
democracy,
country you'd
we
want
are
to go to.
allowed to
You're a
criticize the
fascist.
I will give you the
government.
choice
In
of choosing which
democracy,
country you want to go to. We're sick and tired of it. We're sick and tired of
So you're
people being
either-
in this country
you're a
and constantly
fascist then.
bashing it whilst benefiting from this country in every way. We're
So that,
tired of
so
it.
that means that you pro Starmer. Is that what you're saying? Because you
Absolutely.
can't bash it.
Bastarma is the biggest traitor to this country. Absolutely.
But then you're actually bashing the country, then, aren't you? by
No,
saying
I'm
that?
not. He's not a
our Prime
representation of the
Minister.
country
Well, that's
at
what you
all.
want to
It
get
doesn't
from
matter.
He's
Ireland.
not
That's
a
your choice. How
representation
He's
would
of
you
the country at
actually
all.
despised by the
criticize?
country.
Nobody
That's
actually
just
likes
silly.
Starmer.
Hang on a minute.
We are
But
in a
he's
democracy. You don't
deciding.
understand what's authoritarian. You don't understand what's dictatorship. You don't understand that
know,
being in a
babe.
democracy, you can
You're
have a
on-
different
listen.
You can have a
viewpoint.
difference of
That's what I'm trying to
opinion,
say.
but do
You
not
can
be
have a different
disrespectful.
viewpoint, and
You can have
still
a
Get
difference
yourself
of
disagree with the
logged out
law.
of
opinion, but do
YouTube.
not be
No,
disrespectful.
you're just
And the
saying,
minute you
you
are
know, at the end of the
disrespectful,
day,
if I was
that
the
means
Prime
you should
Minister,
love
you need
Starmer.
to
You
go.
should love your Prime
You need to
Minister of the
go.
United
You can.
Kingdom.
Okay. Yeah.
That's ridiculous
Yep.
what you're saying.
I mean,
You should love Starmer. Everyone even
I've got to
voted
be
for
honest.
him actually right
I've
now.
got to-
That means
I've got to
you're
put my hand
James,
up
yes,
on
what
Go
do you
on,
want to be
James.
honest about?
I got to be honest. I got to end this because I've got a policy of not debating fascists because you can't debate authoritarian and
So I'm
fascist.
fascist
The
for loving
debate
the
wants
country
to
and
send
thinking
me
that
away.
people who live in the
But it
country
wants
should
to
show some
send me
respect to it.
to the Isle of Man or the Isle of Wight because I disagree with it. I mean, that is
No, I never said
despicable.
for
You're a
disagreeing
fascist,
on
you're an
certain points. I never
authoritarian,
said
and you're a
disagreeing on
relig-
certain
Bitch,
points.
you're a
Yeah.
I
religious
said people who
extremist.
show hostility towards the
You're a
country,
religious
towards the
fundamentalist.
flag, towards the people, towards the culture, yes, they need to
I
go.
have
You can
hostility
disagree on me on
against lots of things,
migration,
yeah.
have no issue. But if you constantly show hostility, whether it's physically
But I'm
or
sorry,
verbally,
you're dissing
yes, in
Starmer
my
and his
opinion, you need
hostility
to go.
the United Kingdom.
You need to go.
So,
So,
to,
you
to
know,
your
that's
religion,
wrong.
Fahima, do you
if I show
support
hostility
Starmer?
to your religion,
No, I don't support Starmer. I used to be a Labour supporter. I'm not anymore. I used to be even conservative many years ago. So that's why when people say I'm left or right, I don't believe in that. I do believe in very tough borders. I believe in strict sort of, when it comes to justice. I think that in this country, we should have
you
much more
don't.
stricter
Can I
laws.
just say, I
Of
feel
course
like
I do.
I said at the
Tell me I
beginning.
don't. I think we need to have stricter laws for grooming gangs, for pedophiles and everything. What my point is, don't blame a blanket
You
thing
don't
for
think
all
there's an
migrants.
invasion,
Don't blame it
Fahima?
for every
You don't
Muslim.
think the people
That's
who are
what I
entering the
think.
country are illegal immigrants?
They are irregular by law.
Oh,
if you want to go look at the paperwork, that's how it is. Because if they were illegal, they would be,
They are
arrested.
rapists, they are terrorists,
No,
they are
you're like,
murderers,
And they are
they are
fake
child
asylum
sex
seekers.
traffickers.
It's not all of them. It's such the same old rhetoric.
No
that
one
you
said
want to
all.
use one, a small case of people, which is absolutely abhorrent, and they should really be deported, and not here, but in places like others, they should really have even severe punishment for it. You all just don't think
The
in
majority.
nuance. You're just
They are
binary
all
mindset.
here illegally. They
Binary.
are all criminals because their criminal
Then they should
action
all
was
be arrested. The
entering
law doesn't
our
arrest
country
them.
I just-
illegally
The
from
law-
the
you don't
safe country of
understand how the law
France.
works.
Can I just ask
The
one
law
question?
is-
Okay,
the
yes,
Can I
law
just
is
ask-
there for them
Faith
to
wants
be
to ask a
processed.
question
Can
before
I
you
just
storm
ask
off,
a question
James.
to Fahima and James? What part of illegal do you guys not understand means you've committed a crime? Like, what do you think illegal just means? Nothing. Illegal means you've committed the crime. So if you've committed a crime just entering the country, you are a criminal. And there should be consequences to that.
James?
Why are you guys trying to soften criminality? And this is what I said at the beginning. Mass migration laws are the only laws where people sit around and are thinking of ways to break the law even further. If you've committed a crime, you are a criminal and you need to be criminalized for it. It's as simple as that. I don't care if you came
agree,
from a
the law-
war-torn
the
country and
law
so
is
on and so
important.
forth. There's other neighboring countries that you can go and ask for support for, but do not enter
So
a
here-
border illegally. Like I said at the beginning of this, there is no greater crime in this country than jumping the queue. That is a British custom.
You're
So
saying
if
that
you
crime-
cannot even follow that basic British custom upon entering this
Man,
country,
come on,
you
man.
should not be here.
Okay.
I think you need to
I'm gonna-
you need to read the law.
I've read the
Yeah,
law.
I think here's the thing.
I've read the law clearly.
If I was in power right now, if I restarted my Labour membership and I challenged Keir Starmer, right, and there's a Prime Minister Mathewson, which I'm sure two of you at least on this panel wouldn't like and probably wouldn't vote for me, but never mind. And I decide based that I'm going to bring in a new law, right, and this law is that people who are YouTubers who don't know what they're talking about should be quiet and shouldn't comment on things, and you continue to comment based, you keep doing your YouTube channel and you keep doing all that, and you break that law because I've decided the law, I've brought it in, by the way, whether you think it's right or wrong. You've broken the law based. Do you think it's fair that I should do whatever I want?
Then you should
with
arrest
it?
me. If the law says I shouldn't talk nonsense online and I continue to talk nonsense, I'm a criminal.
You're a bootlegger.
And I should be in jail.
You need to
It's
cancel
not
the
hard to
law
follow
Right
instructions.
now, Babe,
It's
let me
not
make it
hard
clear
to follow
you. The law-
instructions.
You said you know the law. You said
It's
you know
not
the law,
hard to
but the
follow
law
instructions.
Right now,
No, he
no,
gave
but
an
the law
example.
right
He
now
gave an
does not
example that
see them
if the
as
law,
criminals.
no, he gave an example, which is if the law says you cannot talk rubbish on YouTube without knowing what you're talking about, and I still continue to do it, that makes me a retarded criminal. And yes, you should arrest me if that's the law.
Don't
Okay,
you?
at that
Look,
point,
If
when
that's
I
the
say
law.
it,
This is what I mean
It's
when I
just an
say
envelope.
migration
but
laws
the
are the
law
only
right
laws
now,
people are
Base,
willing to
the
break.
law right
I don't
now
care what
does
law
not-
it is. I'm going to
But
follow
it
it.
feels to me, Fahima and James, like you are totally obsessed with excusing people who have entered this country illegal, therefore
No,
are
I'm just going by the
criminals,
law.
because you were trying to say they were asylum seekers. Fahima.
Oh no, because I
They're
believe
not
in
asylum
That's
seekers,
how
Dan. Let
they
me tell
are
you something.
processed.
Half of these
But that's
asylum
how they
seekers
are
that I've worked
processed.
with
If
at my
they're not
previous
asylum
job.
seekers,
Okay,
then they
Fahima,
are
Fahima,
not
just
sorry,
let Base
right.
make her
Let me
point
say
and then you can
something.
come in, Fahima.
I cannot express to you how much I actually hate the word asylum seeker. I really do hate it, because most of these asylum seekers, let me tell you something, they're going on holiday to the country they seek asylum from. Like I told you, whether you guys believe it or not, you guys keep saying I'm speaking off of propaganda. No, I'm speaking off of a job that I used to work, and I saw hundreds of people come in here seeking asylum, whether it's from Ukraine, whether it's from Afghanistan. We call them and say, hi, you have an English class that you need to learn. And they say, actually, I can't come because I'm on holiday to Ukraine. I thought Ukraine had a war. I thought there was a war in
Wow, that's a
Ukraine,
good-
but they're on holiday in
a good
Ukraine. And I've
anecdote,
seen this
eh?
case
Need to
hundreds
bring a
of times.
Ukrainian in there.
Fahima, how do you respond to that?
Well, you are going to get cases
And you know
that
what
are actually going
happens?
to be
Sorry,
taken advantage.
can I just say something?
Look.
And what happens is when the real asylum seekers, like the people who are genuinely seeking asylum, come to this country looking for some kind of support, people like me or other patriotic people won't take them seriously, because the word asylum seeker has just been used and abused. These people are not seeking asylum. If
Used
you were
by you.
seeking asylum, how do you go from flipping Lebanon all the way to
Okay,
the
let
UK?
James respond. Let James respond.
It's been used by you, base. That's what it's been used by. We all acknowledge the word. We know the word.
Exactly.
It's a legal term. It's a legal terminology. It's recognized around the world and the globe.
That
like, I know you
people
think
use
there's
and
some
abuse.
global
That people
plan,
use and
and I know
abuse.
both of you think there's some kind of conspiracy here at the heart of this. Like, you've used the word
Yes.
Dan all the time. You keep talking about an invasion. There's some kind of global conspiracy that, like, on a Thursday night, I don't know about you, Fema, I haven't seen you at the meetings recently, but when we go to the global elite meetings and we sit
Well,
down
you
and
don't
we
think
plan
there's
how
an invasion? You
bring
don't
into
think
the
there's an
country. I mean,
invasion
come on.
You
taking
think there's
place
an
at the United
invasion?
Kingdom? Are you serious?
No, there's no into the United Kingdom. There are people who are fleeing countries for whatever reason.
France.
So
And
they
I
should
couldn't
go to
care
their
less
France.
neighboring country.
They're
If you're
fleeing, well, they're fleeing
As a
from
country,
France.
if you want to be a serious nation, right, then when people land on your doorstep for whatever reason,
You should
should
send
be
them
able
to
to
their neighboring
facilitate an
country.
asylum,
Send them to their neighboring country.
application that you then process.
But James, you
It
know
is
that doesn't
any-
happen. What
it is
happens
not
is
their
that they
fault
end up
that
staying
our
here
process is
forever.
broken.
They end up either raping our sisters, our daughters,
they?
our mothers,
Dan, that is
or,
outrageous.
well, it's true, or murdering people, or committing terrorist attacks, or shaming our system by taking part in sex trafficking and drug dealing while spending our benefits and using our health system. And the fact that
there's
you
a
don't believe those are the
there is
people who
a
are coming in the small
psychological-
boats
there
proves
is
to
a
me that you are living
psychological
in a little delusional world.
They're very
No,
delusional.
you
You can
are.
run a-
You are falling for the psychological trap of generalizing, deleting, and distorting information. And you
No,
need to
Fahima.
understand that the law right now is basically there to say that if you come in, they are being processed, they are being vetted, and yes, if people are committing crimes like anyone, they are criminalized, they are
Can I
taken
just
into prison.
say-
So
Yes,
what is your
James?
problem when it comes
I
to it?
think-
Right
I think-
now, we are having and we're doing exactly what the law actually states. What you're talking about is completely off. It means like as if you don't even
No,
understand
it's
what's
not.
going on.
It's not because the illegal that came in and sorry, James, I'll let you come in after this. But the illegal that came in, and do you remember the dude who was threatening the life of Nigel Farage and was immediately
Yes.
jailed for that? The
So,
judge
was
in the
criminalised.
case admitted that he had broken the law simply from entering the country. So we could do the same thing with every single person, James.
Well, that's legal precedent. It's a different argument, but I don't believe it's there, and that's why you don't get those deportations the moment that you want. But what I'm saying is, I think Fahima's wrong. I think she just said something wrong. Jen, I'll pull
we
her up
totally
on it.
agree
I
on
think
that.
I think Fahima, well, hold your horses down. Let's see. Fahima said that I think that that she thinks you're both falling for this trap of kind of a bigger agenda at play by being by falling for this stuff. I don't think you're falling for it. I think you know it. I think it's a grift, right? I think you've got a great business model, right? I think you've got a very clever business model because people get rage baited by this, don't they? People like
Yes,
me.
they're
It
inflammatory.
winds people like me up. It winds up everybody else. And I think you've got a very clever business model running. I think you're probably a great example of a young entrepreneur. And I think we should probably get you into schools and teach. I mean, I don't approve with the
So
way that you're
being
doing it. but
patriotic
if you
for your
put-
country and
positive
wanting
way,
to protect the
then you
borders and loving Christianity means that I'm a great entrepreneur. Are you joking me right now? Like, what are you
Christianity.
even
I've got
talking
no
about?
issue for
Because I
Christianity,
want
but
this
I think
country
I'm
to
more
be great, because I
patriotic
want
and
this
I
country to
actually
be
have more
safe.
Christian values
Now
than even
I'm an
right here.
No, you do not have Christian
Fahima!
values.
Yes, I do.
Fahima,
Fahima, you're
don't do
saying
that.
you
You
have
do not
more
have
Christian values.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Your religion
Yes,
doesn't
I
even
do.
believe that
My
Jesus is God,
religion
so
is
don't do
part
that.
of Christianity.
No, your religion does not even
Absolutely.
believe Jesus is God, so do not even start when it comes to saying that you're more of a Christian. So
Jesus
don't do
is
that,
real, man.
especially not in my
I'll do you
presence.
one better. I'll do you one
But
better.
I'm sorry, I am very much a patriot, regardless of what you think. The reason why I fight, because at the end of the day, I talk within the law of this land and I understand how it works. And at the same time, I want to take away the inflammatory propaganda and rhetoric that's constantly being repeated without any sort of
Just
evidence.
facts.
And yes,
I've
there is.
literally
there
got like so much
I've said
evidence
facts as well.
every
I've
single
said facts
day.
as well.
There is
You
a
just
new
say that
example
everyone
of
is
an
the
illegal.
same. Everyone's coming in.
Yeah,
It's the
every
same. They're
single
not the
day there
same.
is an example of an illegal either attacking or murdering or plotting, and I'm sick of it. And I believe most of the country are with me. James, final
We
word.
are all sick of that. We
Well, I
need
was
better
just gonna-
processes.
What I was going to say is, I'll finish on this, right? Listen, I think, and I have respect for all of you. I think every organized religion on earth is nonsense. So understand from that point is
Oh,
where I
that makes
speak from.
sense why
Okay,
his views are very
I
delusional.
believe you, but okay, right, yeah. Well, let me tell you about the person on this panel who is accepting of me as an atheist, and it's not you as a Christian base. So put it that way, you know, that we need to respect each other's faiths. You're not based. You want this to be a country of your religious
Okay,
dogma.
say that to the
You want it to
Muslims
be
that were in
you want
Whitechapel
it to be-
stopping a
you
preacher
want it
from
to be a-
preaching. Say
listen,
that to the
That was
Muslim
wrong.
woman who tried
That
to
was
strangle
wrong.
me from
Dan,
for wearing
Dan,
the
I'm trying to
Union Jack.
finish.
Say that to the
Sorry,
Muslims who
James,
did
what's that?
Let me try and finish before Base cuts in here.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that you believe in a theocracy based, right? You want this to be a religious country like Israel. You want it to be ethno-nationalist, right? I am an atheist, born and bred here. My genetic DNA, which all of you seem bloody obsessed with, by the way, goes back to the Vikings and the Danelaw in the northeast of England, right? Let me tell you, there is nobody more British than I am, and I think Christianity is nonsense. I was raised as a Catholic, I shirked it off, right? But in church, the things that I did hear that I agreed with were the utterances of Jesus Christ, somebody who I believe was probably just a bloke in the Middle East saying pretty socialist things, right, while wearing sandals. And let me tell you, that was about acceptance, tolerance, and love. And the only person on this panel who's showing that is the Muslim.
Okay.
because she's living in Britain. If
Okay.
she was living in a Muslim country, it would be completely different.
I don't care. You're
Yeah,
not
it's
doing
because
it.
of the
You
British
don't have to
values
say
that she carries
Why
that
would you
has
say something
calmed her
like that?
down.
That is absolutely.
Yep, it's
I
because
hate
of
when
the
people
British
always
values
reference,
that she's
I was
grown
not
up
born
with
in a
that have
Muslim
made her
country.
less
I don't come from a
radical.
Muslim country.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, look, all I
You
know,
can't just also
all I
say
know
that.
is that in the mosques
I'm
of
from South
East,
Africa, so don't actually, also put me in a box because
What
I
I'm
don't
saying
belong
is
in a
it's
box.
British culture.
And
It's the
don't label
Christian
me
British
either.
culture that has made you less radical. Because if you was raised somewhere else,
That
that,
is
for example, where
ridiculous.
there is
That is
Sharia law, I
absolute
think you would have been a lot
Christianity,
more radical.
your Christianity in Africa would see little boys burnt as witches.
Okay,
so
and we also
don't
see a
talk
lot
about.
of Christians in Nigeria being killed
let me just
and
tell
sexually
you,
assaulted.
Let me just tell you, go into the mosques of East London, where I've spoken to people like Sahel Ahmed, who have been de-radicalized, a young gay Muslim man who nearly blew up an IED at Canary Wharf to take out thousands of us, people like all of us. And he did it because he was taught in the mosques of East London that it was so wrong for him to be homosexual, for someone like me to be homosexual, that we should be pushed off the top of buildings in London. So
Just
I'm
like
sorry.
in the Catholic churches of Belfast.
Well, I'm sorry if I don't believe that this is a religion which is preaching tolerance and peace in our country.
It does, because my religion says to follow the law of the land, and I don't particularly agree with that. Nobody does. We are living here with so many, millions of people and billions across the globe. We don't cause any issues. In fact, a lot of investment is in London because of the, the Emiratis, the Muslims, the
Okay.
so-called people.
Well, look, it's been a
EFTA, that is all
fascinating
nonsense.
discussion. James
Absolute
Matthewson,
nonsense.
I'm glad that you didn't walk, which means that deep down you
I nearly did.
you must understand deep down that based and bougie is a lot of things, but she's not a fascist. Come on, James.
I'm black.
Well,
How can I
come
be a
on,
let's see. You
fascist?
said, I'll level it down. I'll level it down to an acceptance that you said some fascist things.
Oh my
Is that all
gosh.
right?
I'm
Can we
literally
do
a
that?
black woman. How can I be a fascist?
As towns and cities are becoming more unrecognizable by the day from the harsh consequences of mass immigration, could we be seeing the end of the Britain we once knew and loved? Up and down the country, communities are being forced to live in danger as unknown men stay in hotels funded by the taxpayer, some of them going on to rape and kill British citizens. While many leftists will lead you to believe immigration is enriching our country, others argue what we're actually seeing is the death of the Britain we grew up in. So we're going head to head on this today with the conservative YouTube sensation Based in Bougie, who argues immigration is destroying Britain, and the broadcaster and author James Matthewson and the broadcaster and commentator Fahima Muhammad. They think immigration to Britain is a good thing. So I'm going to give you a minute each. James Matthewson, let's kick off. Why is immigration a good thing, James?
Thanks for starting me, Dan. It's a complex issue, immigration, right? Because often There's so much vitriol and so much rhetoric in various directions about it that people forget about the reality. Even just your intro about Britain becoming recognizable, right? I'm a white British-born man. I recognise the Britain that I grew up in, still very much here. I don't see any changes happening to Britain other than ones that are brought about by the political elite.
Have you visited White? Oh, sorry, it's your minute. I can't interrupt. Sorry. Sorry, James.
Give me a chance, Dan. But at the same time, I do think what comes down to at the end of the day is reality versus fear mongering. And that's the real concern for me, is that the message that's being put out there is being put out there to push an agenda, and that agenda at its very core, I believe, to be xenophobic.
James, I'm so sorry. I actually interrupted you during your minute. That is terrible. I have never done that before. That means this is going to be a fiery one. So I apologize. I apologize, James. Based and Bougie, why is he wrong? Your minute starts now.
Well, first and foremost, he started off his sentence that immigration is a very complex issue. So the fact that you even mentioned the fact that it's complex already tells you that it hasn't been great. Now, we all know the British saying that it is a great crime to jump the queue. But for some reason, when it comes to migration, this basic British concept is always being ignored. Immigration is the only law where people sit around and discuss ways to break the law further. Now, I'm not against migration. I'll be a retard to be against migration. My dad was a migrant. What I'm against is people like my dad having to watch unvetted, unchecked, undocumented, and sometimes even criminals, terrorists, and rapists not follow the basic procedures like not skipping the queue that my dad had to follow. So my whole thing with migration is if you cannot follow the customs, especially when it comes to illegal migration at the borders, you have no place in this country.
Okay. Fahima Mohammed, your minute starts now. Why is Based and Bougie wrong?
Well, let's be serious for a moment. Britain hasn't just survived immigration, it has benefited from it repeatedly across centuries. There are different types of immigration, and we deliberately blur them in political debates. You have skilled work immigration, doctors, nurses, engineers, tech workers, who are filling shortages that are our own in our own labour market, who cannot, currently meet. And you have students who pay international fees and support one of our biggest export sectors. You got, in higher education. You also have the family migration, which stabilizes communities and supports integration. And you also have asylum seekers, a small proportion of the overall migration arriving through, these routes because Britain is a signatory to international refugee law. Now, Britain isn't being destroyed by immigration. It's just strained by bad management, underinvestment, and political theatre. The facts and the actual net migration has fallen sharply.
Okay, Fahima.
With the ONS,
Well, you can come to me with those stats in just one moment because your minute is up. I would just say, try telling the families who I've had in this studio who have been killed by so-called asylum seekers. I would describe them as illegal migrants, that it's not really doing much damage. But look, James Matthewson, I have to start with you because as I say, I interrupted your opening statement because I was so shocked, James, that you could say with a straight face that you haven't seen the country change over the course of your lifetime. Now, I do appreciate, I believe you're not in London, at least. I'm not
work in London.
Yeah, but you're not living there now, are you?
No, but I've been there. I've lived there.
Because honestly, just take a walk around most
But are we talking
parts
about
of
London?
East London.
Are we talking about the country?
What's that, sorry?
You said that swathes of the country are recognisable. Are we talking about the capital city, which is always in an itself? It's a giant thing. It's a very unique place, London. I mean, I do feel comfortable in London. I've never felt comfortable in London because I'm from the northeast of England. It's never to do with immigration or brown faces or anyone like that. It's to do with London and the culture of London itself. London's a very unique place. So I think talking about the rest of the country as a whole and London can often blur the lines, if you like.
Well, I don't think it is just London. You could talk about Bradford, you could talk about Birmingham. There are loads of places that you could talk about, but it is now unrecognisable. It doesn't look like England. There are
But
shop signs in other languages.
I don't know
They're
what
not
does
serving
what does
our
England need
food.
to look
They're on
like?
the streets doing the prep. I mean, to me, that is a concern. Is it not a concern to you?
What does England look like? I think that's the thing we need to start with here. If I want to, because I genuinely want to try and understand.
Well, not
based,
that. Not that.
I think England looks
Not
like
what?
a Christian conservative country with clean streets, and you
Not a
see
Christian
crosses and
conservative
crosses
country.
and
Where did you get that
churches
idea?
all over the streets. Not what we're seeing today, where we see all these kebab halal and shisha stores. That is not Britain. I think you should
Kebab
know.
shop.
Yes.
Kebab shops. Are the
Wow,
issue.
I cannot
Yes.
believe I'm actually hearing this conversation
Yes.
right now.
Why, Fahima? What's shocked you?
We are in a free market. We are in a democracy. We are having people that are in shops that have been paying into the taxpayer. If they have kebab shops, if they have whatever it is that you're talking about, shisha, that is putting money back into the economy. So as far as I'm concerned, what you're actually saying is you don't like people from certain backgrounds and certain sort of ethnicity. So that's the real issue
And the
that
other
I hear
thing-
That's
right now.
actually not
thing
what
on
I'm
that-
saying. I actually enjoy a cheeky kebab. What I'm saying is that if I go down the streets and all I see is kebab shops and all I see is halal shops and I don't see pubs anymore and I don't see fish and chip shops and I
What are you
don't see
looking at?
a cafe,
Well,
then
it's a
I'm going to
supply
be
and demand
asking
thing,
myself,
isn't
is
it?
this
I
Turkey
think,
or
at
is
the
this
end
the
of the
UK?
day.
Let's stop pretending that countries don't have a certain, aesthetic. If you go to Nigeria, Lagos looks a
don't.
certain way. England looks a certain way. Pakistan looks a certain way. But what's
No, it
happening here
doesn't.
in the UK
I was born and raised
is that
in
the
South
UK
Africa.
is starting
I
to
know
look
what
like Turkey
differences it
and
is. I know exactly
and Afghanistan, and we
people
just
can
don't want
come
that.
in
We
and they
can go to
actually
Turkey
say
and
that
Afghanistan
you shouldn't
to
be
see
here
those
or you should be
things.
here. At the end of the day, this kind of language and this analysis is so poor and it's just really biased.
It's not about
Can I
being poor.
add just on the? Can I just say there, one of the things that you said there that really shocked me is that your belief of what England looks like and what this country looks like
Yes,
is a conservative Christian country.
absolutely.
Where on earth did you get that?
Wasn't Britain built on Christian values? What do you mean, where on
No.
earth did I get that?
It
Britain
still
was
has
literally
Christian
built on
values.
Christian
She's
values, so
saying
it should
values.
look like.
C conservative, James. She's not talking about
What
a
does that
political
mean, Dan?
party. Well,
Can we explain that for our viewers?
Well, I think it means a country where we respect the rule of law, where we respect democratic values, where we have a respect for a Christian culture, where we respect
what's
law
a
and order.
Christian
And I'm
culture?
sorry, I have seen that completely break down as a result of mass immigration to this country.
I don't know
No,
what a
it's not.
Christian
That's a
culture is.
breakdown because there are more people that are atheists and are not, actually practicing. The only reason that you will even see anyone doing anything is only for Easter or Christmas, nothing in between.
But
So
Fahima,
that's not the
are you
problem.
genuinely
Ignorance.
suggesting that the tens of millions of people who have been imported into this country have not been part in the breakdown of our society? And that breakdown
Absolutely
of society
not.
looks
Absolutely not.
a whole
In fact,
load of
we
different
find
ways, but it
Muslims even with
includes
Christmas
shoplifting,
trees.
for example, which has now been
You
legalized.
jump into crimes for, Dan.
You're just
I've
bringing out
shoplifted.
one or two things and you're just making it like as if it's a big
I-
issue. This is not real analysis, by the way.
I shoplifted as a teenager, Dan. I'm
Yes.
from a white Christian background.
I know, and I'm not saying for a single second that white Christian people do not commit crimes. Like,
But you're
yes,
linking the two directly.
I am
the
linking.
immigration.
No. I am linking the massive explosion that we have seen of a lawless society where you now cannot walk down the
Lawless?
street. Yes, Fahima. I don't know where you're living, but I've been mugged twice in London because I happened to walk down the street with my phone out. And for you to say that you do not think that the increase in a breakdown of law and order and a breakdown in our society is nothing to do with immigration, I think is hugely naive.
I'll tell you what
I
it's to
just
do
find
with,
it
Dan.
particularly
No, you are just
disgusting
picking
and
on
disrespectful.
Okay,
one or
James-
two
James
examples,
first,
and
James
I'm
first,
sorry
then we'll
that
come to you
happened
both.
you. No one is actually saying that what you've done and what you've experienced doesn't happen, but that does not mean that you can just, have a sort of like a blanket sort of
Well, I
argument
can because it's
about
a
it being
fact.
because of
James,
immigration, because that's not statistically
Well,
correct
here-
either.
okay, let James come in
No.
and then we'll go to base.
I just think there are very easy answers that get given to complex problems. And based, you said at the start of this that I said that immigration is complex, if that was some kind of indication that therefore you're right. What I mean by the fact that it's complex is that it's nuanced. It requires into to try and break these issues down, right? Nothing in life is straightforward.
But James,
And-
there
and
is
immigration
nothing nuanced about it,
different.
though, when it comes
But
to
what
the
I'm-
political
what I
will of
need
the
to say,
British
Dan, but-
people. Okay, well,
But I'm trying
look,
to finish.
sorry.
I'm just trying to finish one point, and that's the central point, that if somebody gives you an easy solution to a complicated, then it's not likely to be real. And if the solution to the increase in crime and the incidents you've experienced, Dan, many of my friends, many of my family, I'm sure many of us have had similar experiences of increase in crime, does not necessarily mean linked directly to immigration, because poverty is the biggest driving factor of crime. And everybody knows that. That's not linked to immigration. That's linked to
But
poverty.
James, where I say that there is nothing complex is the fact that the reason we are having these issues is because for 5 decades, since Enoch Powell gave that speech, and I'm sure both of you, Fahima and James, think that he should have had his head on a stake or something like that. But actually, Enoch Powell was right. The British people backed him 50 years ago, and we have been ignored at every election because of a political class that both of you support. I mean, James, you were a senior Labour advisor, weren't you, under Jeremy Corbyn? You have supported the public being ignored.
No, what I'm saying, Dan, it is outrageous to say that the British public backed Enoch Powell. Right? He was an MP.
They do. Go and look at the stats. At the time they backed him.
No, I'm sorry. Well, listen, the British public isn't always right. And I love the way that the right are selective about the British public and who matters when they take that consideration.
Okay, well, I'm glad you've admitted that. That's a really fundamental point.
You go back to the 1940s and the Battle of Cable Street. You heard about the Battle of Cable Street?
Yes, I know all about it.
Yeah, so you know what happened in the Battle of Cable Street? Multicultural communities in the East End of London came together to stop Oswald Mosley and his black shirt fascists from marching through the streets, spreading their hatred, their racism, and
But it's not hatred to say that you want your country to look like England. That's not hatred. If a Nigerian came along and they said
James,
that
just let base come in.
But this is what I'm getting very, very tired of. It's not hatred to say that you want your country to look like your country. I'm not being funny, but in 1955, 3% of the population had a concern about migration. Skip to 2015, now 56% of the population has a concern about migration. Are you trying to tell me 56% of the population are hatred and are fascists? No, it's a big problem. It's a big problem that I'm so sorry people like the both of you continue to ignore. Yes, he's been mugged he's been, has had things stolen from him. But if the statistics are telling you that migrants keep making up these crimes, in my opinion, they shouldn't even be making up any of these crimes.
They're not.
Why are you
That
guys
is
ignoring
absolutely
this?
incorrect.
Why are you guys ignoring this?
Fahima,
This is the
sorry,
exact same thing we
are
saw
just
with the
picking
grooming
on
gangs.
figures and you are making
This is
it again a
the
blanket
exact same thing we
assumption.
saw with the grooming gangs when 45% of the men who were
I knew that was
grooming
gonna come
women were Pakistani men. People like yourselves turned around and said that we shouldn't generalize. No, I think we should go back to generalizing if 45% of the men are Pakistani.
Generalize.
We need to stop ignoring the facts. And again, it's not hatred. It's not hatred to say these facts.
I really don't
What we
understand that
care
I'm
about
actually
is just
hearing this
making the
right now.
country a safer, better place. You don't go to Nigeria telling Nigerians you don't have the right to make Nigeria look like Nigeria. You don't do that. The UK is the only country in the world where multiculturalism is literally being forced down their throat. You don't hear people telling the Chinese that they need more multiculturalism or they need to change. Why is it only the UK that needs to change?
Rubbish.
Okay, go on.
Absolutely rubbish.
Go on.
You're talking out of nonsense right now. Seriously.
Okay.
I cannot believe that no wonder.
Which part was
Seriously.
nonsense?
This is absolutely ridiculous.
Which part was nonsense?
thing is,
at the end of the day, when you talk about multiculturalism, it does not happen because, people are coming here and making also, they are invited. They were invited. They actually contribute. And at the end of the day, when it comes to people wanting their own country, then they should also, there is also an abortion rate, which is high. There is euthanasia. There is nothing to do with Christianity. If you look at the laws, people are not having children. The birth rate is down. There's so many other factors. And like how James mentioned, a lot of people that are actually committing crime is because also majority of the time is because of the actual, the factors of, poverty and the deprivation. That's what's carrying on.
But Fahima, you are being very disingenuous because of the way that you talk in, I would argue, a sort of Pollyanna-ish way. Immigration has resulted in a utopia. These asylum seekers are all just
not
wonderful
utopia. We
people,
definitely have
wonderful people who we just welcome in. I just want to know what
Neither
you
of
would
us are saying
say
that.
to Siobhan White, who was sitting across from me a couple of weeks ago, whose daughter Rhiannon, who was working at one of the asylum seeker hotels, a great woman, a mother of one, a young mother of one, who did everything right. Look what you say. Here you
Here
go.
we go.
She
That's-
was stabbed to death
That's what they do.
23 times by an illegal
By a
migrant
man.
with a screwdriver, and you say, "Here we
go.
go."
And
That's
we
what
have
they do.
laws for that.
They
We
pretend
have
like
laws for criminal activity. We have laws for that. And that's
Yeah.
for anyone, whether they are an immigrant,
But that
whether
only
they
happened
are
because
even
we are
living here.
allowing
We
this
have laws for
invasion to
that.
take
We are not
place.
And it
doing
wouldn't have
anything.
happened if nobody allowed him into the country.
And
No,
if
that's
it
outrageous.
happened to one of your
That's
family members, would you just say,
completely
"Oh, here
outrageous.
we
we
go.
go.
This
You
is a
guys live
political
in a
talking
different
point"?
world and a
Here we
land
go,
that you
because
have absolutely no clue of how this law
Sorry,
works.
can you explain
talk
why
about
you said "here we go"?
negotiating-
Can you explain why you said
Yeah,
"here we
Let
go"? What
James
did you mean by
explain.
"here
Let
we
James
go"?
explain.
Yeah, what I meant by "here we go" is you guys using that. You just talk about Fahima being disingenuous, and then all of a sudden, I see you, Dan. The posture changes. This woman, this brave woman. You have not done that, neither of you. And Chris, I know that you stood on platforms. You've been beside Tommy Robinson on that march in London that was a disgrace, right? Those people like you, people like Tommy Robinson, you turn a blind eye every day of the week when white men murder women.
No, we don't.
Bullshit.
No, we do not.
There were one
No,
woman
we
went
do
up to the
not.
Tommy,
I have
Tommy
no.
Robinson's march,
If you actually
and she
scroll
was
through
booed,
Tommy
and
Robinson's
she was
ex,
in the crowd,
you will
and
see
she
Tommy
was
Robinson
actually taken out of the
constantly.
Okay,
crowd
don't speak
because
over
she
each other,
said
Fahima.
that her
Fahima, what are you
perpetrator
saying?
was
Sorry.
white. I was saying in Tommy Robinson's march, there was also one woman that stood up and said, I have also been groomed. I have also been, raped. And my perpetrator was white, and she was booed and she was taken off the stage because you
Well,
know
we
what
were
I
there.
mean?
I
That
didn't
didn't
see
happen.
that. I broadcast the whole thing. Are you
That did
sure?
not happen.
Nobody
Hey.
ever
We was
will
literally
say
there.
that anyone is for a pedophile, a grooming gang, or even is for it. We have laws, very strict laws. In fact, it should be stricter for things like that. But you trying to say that it's because of only immigration, that's absolutely incorrect.
Okay, well, as someone who is actually African, I can tell you myself.
I'm African as well, actually.
Okay, well, I can tell you myself, and I don't say this to be derogatory to all Africans, but if you compare, men's mentality when it comes to consent and women's rights in comparison to the mentality here in the West, it is completely different. Do you know how many girls I've known who have been sexually assaulted by stepfathers and uncles? It's the norm in countries like myself. So when we are mass importing this, yes, there are white men out there who can groom and assault children, but why add more men to the problem? That's what we're trying to say to you. Why add more men to the problem? People need to stop ignoring the fact that there are other cultures who condone children being assaulted, and why bring that culture to the UK and increase this problem?
There's no such thing as bringing a culture here, because if that's the case, then no one in this country that is indigenous will actually have those kind of criminal activity that's happening. I work within probation. I deal with ex-offenders. I am vetted by the Ministry of Justice. I understand what it's like. I work at the grassroots. What you're talking about is absolutely nonsense.
I've worked with immigrants as well. I've worked with immigrants as well, and I can assure you,
whether they are perpetrators or they are actually victims. So as far as I'm concerned, you have no clue, and you're just listening to propaganda and repeating that.
This is not about, okay, let me say something. This is not about having no clue. I used to be like you guys. I used to think that migration was just the greatest thing to happen because my father was a migrant, until I actually found a job in a migration center. And I can tell you, of every 10 people that would come in who were migrants, only one of them were actually willing to integrate, willing to learn English, willing to actually respect the custom. This is coming from my own personal experience. So don't tell me that I'm out here following propaganda. This was part of my job. I saw certain things that were completely inappropriate. For instance, we had a person who was coming in.
Let James come in.
We all can bring our experience into it, and we can say certain things. But at the end of the day, the English law is one of the best in the world, and it actually needs to remain, but it needs to be more powerful, and it needs to have more investment when it comes to people who are judges, who are in the Home Office and the processing.
James, come in.
And let me just say this. I mean, based, you are a gift to some people. You are an absolute gift because you are willing to to stand up and say these things.
Sorry,
in a
what was
way
that? I
that
couldn't
plays
hear that. I'm an
direct.
You're a
absolute.
gift, he says.
You're a
Okay.
gift to certain people because you're willing to
I'm a gift to
stand
this
up from your
country.
lived
Thank you.
experience perspective and play into an agenda that is not for you and is directly against
James,
you,
that's
right?
really
These
patronising
That's
people,
because
absolutely
what you're
ridiculous.
suggesting
no,
is that
these
she should
people
take a
directly,
particular view because of her colour.
Yep.
no,
And
no, what I'm saying is,
so
I'm
what
saying,
view
babe,
should I be taking? So what view should I be
let
taking?
me tell you, as a white man, right, I have a privilege to be in certain spaces where I've heard that you will never hear. You've heard things about people who respect say things in private and in the comfort of their surroundings when they don't think they're going to be judged, right? I grew up in the least diverse county in this country. I grew up in Northumberland, right? I didn't meet a person of colour until I was 19 years old, right? That's the community that I grew up in. It's entirely white. It's very Christian or supposedly Christian, whatever you define as Christian. But it's everything that you said England is, right? And yet at my school, three of my friends who are women who were kids. I know, sexual assault through the roof. All of these crimes exist and continue to exist. What you are pushing the narrative of is that people from elsewhere in the world, whether you like it or not, this is going to be an uncomfortable truth for you to face up to. You are pushing the narrative that people from elsewhere in the world are less than.
I
or
never
are
said that.
different.
I never said
You're
that.
dehumanizing
I did not
people. You are
dehumanize them.
actually dangerous
Nope,
for
nope, nope, nope,
society,
nope.
and
That's not what I did. I did not
How I
dehumanize
view
any
it for
person.
Hema and James is that what Based and Bougie is doing is acknowledging that there are differences between cultures. And if you import one particular culture into our country,
There's no such
you're
thing as
going to
importing any
destroy
culture.
the
There's no
indigenous
culture, there's no
culture.
religion, there's no person who has really decent morals that will actually have any sort of criminal activity. That's what you don't understand. There's nothing to do with that. There are other factors which has got nothing to do. There is, if that's the case, then
Well, I'm
what
sorry.
kind of like
I
culture
am
is Lefties?
disgusted
What kind of
that you
culture
both
is,
think it
Jimmy
is
Savile?
okay
What are you
for
talking
these
about?
illegals to enter the country to literally kill British women within weeks. And it's just
They
like,
are a
oh,
small
there you
minority
go.
of them, and
There
that's
you
what
go.
we're
A
dealing
Tommy
with.
Robinson
No,
talking
that
point.
is a
Exactly.
And
dealing.
I don't
That
even
we
know
do
why
have-
you chose to raise Tommy Robinson, because Tommy Robinson is someone who you guys should be loving. He is actually in favor of civic nationalism. He just doesn't support Islam extremism.
And do you know how many times Tommy
No,
Robinson
he
has
doesn't
come to my
he does
defense?
not support
Sorry, let me
Islam,
say
full
something.
stop.
Do you know how many times Tommy Robinson has come to my defense from the real ethno-nationalists who have told me they do not want me in this country? Tommy Robinson has defended me time and time again. So for you guys to sit here and mention Tommy Robinson as if he's this horrible
Excuse me,
person,
we
he
had a
has been
march
extremely
that was
nice to me.
having,
Just because he
people
mentions
that was
the truth
completely
about
from
Islam
abroad,
and the
talking
truth
everything
about other
against
cultures,
Islam.
it
wasn't
doesn't
about
mean that he is a
extremism, it was
hateful
about
person.
Islam and Muslims as a whole. So I'm really happy that you have a fan, that's there standing by yourself as a bodyguard, but I certainly don't, because people like that inflame the kind of abuse that I will receive on the streets. So that's absolutely
I think the
unfair.
only people
You might be
inflaming
bugged,
abuse
but
is
because
your
I'm a
community.
visible Muslim,
Your
and we
community
have
that's stopping
hundreds of
people, that's
marching on
stopping
the streets that
Christians
are
from preaching on the
anti-Muslim. That, for
streets.
me,
I
is
think
not
the
the
only
issue.
community that is vile, I'm sorry, I think the only community that has been very, very hostile to other communities are the communities that are the ones that are trying to stop Christians preaching in the street in Whitechapel. And I'm so sorry, that is
That
the
shouldn't
Muslim
happen.
community.
And I don't think anything like that should happen.
That
We
is
actually
happening.
are
You guys
very
keep
much
denying
in
the
line
truth.
with
It is
Christianity.
happening.
Jesus
You can literally
Christ
go on the
is really
internet
is our
and you can
prophet.
see
So
people
what you're
literally
talking
being
about is
stopped on the
nonsense, and those
streets
people,
in
they should
Whitechapel
be
and
dealt with.
arrested.
Okay,
But
okay.
to
There's no
think that
point. There's
everyone's
no
like
point
that
yelling
is
over each other
completely
because we've
off.
actually got to hear each other's arguments. A very heated debate here on The Clash today. Of course, do stick around because we're moving over to Substack now for the Royal Uncancelled After Show. You can join us there at www.outspoken.live. Remember too that we are available now as a podcast, so you can subscribe either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube too. Turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our new episodes. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.